Hey guys, it is the Comics Kid 2099. I know I just did a haul video a couple of days ago showing you guys what I got for Christmas. Now I'm showing you guys what I got a couple of days after Christmas. Our family went on a road trip on Saturday. I got several books, one of them at a comic book shop, and the rest of them I bought used at a very big warehouse. I've talked about it before in some of my other haul videos. I had a $10 gift coupon for that warehouse. One of the shirts that I showed you in my haul video, the one about flammable challenge accepted, I showed that off in my haul video. Turns out it did not fit me, so I was going to give it to my dad, and he said, well, here's that $10 gift coupon as an exchange. So then I took it and I used it in part of this, and I also took another book that I had a duplicate of to that bookstore, or the warehouse place, and then I was able to get, I think, $3.75 of store credit, which was not as much as I had paid for the book, but that's what I get for being an idiot and buying the book in the first place when I actually already had the book. So anyway, I've got all of this stuff, and hopefully this will be a fairly quick video, but knowing me, probably not. Got this one at the comic book shop, Essential Warlock Volume, there it is, 1. And I know very little about this other than it's 1970s groovy, psychedelic, very, very likely drug-induced cosmic stuff. Very interesting. I'm really looking forward to reading it. I have another cosmic book from the 70s, I think. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I'm really looking forward to reading this, as well as Starlin and Englehart's Captain Marvel stuff. I've got a lot of stuff to read, and it looks like that's not going to end anytime soon. So I will see what this is like whenever I get to it. It will probably be a very long time before I get to it, because not only do I have a lot of stuff to read, I have like 15 of these essential books that I haven't even read. So it's going to be a long time, but when I do read it, I will probably let you guys know what I think. Volume 2 of the series Maintenance. I've talked about this in a previous haul video. Basically, the idea is these are the janitors on a supervillain mad scientist secret headquarters. It's kind of like, what would the janitors on the Death Star be doing? It's not a space headquarters, it's an earthbound headquarters, but it's just different shenanigans that these two are up to. I read Volume 1 sometime back. I thought it was pretty fun, so I saw this. This was, I think, $3, and I thought, you know what, that series was worth it, so this is Volume 2. I think there are 3 volumes total. If I never find Volume 3, I would be okay with that. Just reading these, it was enjoyable. It wasn't something that I absolutely have to get all of, though. So I'm looking forward to reading this. It will be a nice little light reading to do. Challengers of the Unknown Must Die by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Back in, I want to say, May, I did a review of a Challengers of the Unknown miniseries from the early 2000s by Howard Chaykin. Turns out I really hated it, but I am still interested in reading some of the adventures of the more obscure DC characters like Adam Strange or the Challengers of the Unknown, for example. And even though this is Loeb, who typically I am not a huge fan of, and I'm not trying to be the cool guy who makes fun of Loeb because that's what's cool to do right now, I legitimately don't like a lot of his work. Hopefully, though, this will be entertaining. I am hoping that this will be more faithful to what I think of as the Challengers of the Unknown than the Howard Chaykin stuff. I don't know. We will look and see. Right off the top of my head, this does not look like the Challengers of the Unknown. It looks like a bunch of new dudes, which was also what the Howard Chaykin miniseries was. We will see what's actually going on when I read this book, though. So that's another one that hopefully it's going to be good. That's a maybe, though. It may not be. This is another Superman book from the 1990s. I know a couple of haul videos ago, I got a whole bunch of Superman books from this era. I think I am close to having all of the Superman stories that are collected from the 1990s. There are not many Superman books in general. If you look at like all the Batman-related books that exist, there's like 5 times as many Batman-related books as there are Superman books, and I've already got like 10 of the stories from the 1990s. That may be a little bit of a stretch, but I don't think it is. I think if you count the 3 Death of Superman related books, then I definitely have about 10 of them. So anyway, all I know is that this is about what happens if Clark Kent's disguise becomes moot. If someone finds out that Clark Kent is Superman, what happens? And I am not entirely sure because I stopped reading Grant Morrison's run of Action Comics after the first volume, but I think that Grant Morrison tackled a similar idea in his run. So now I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to do some research and see if Grant Morrison actually did do that in his run. If he did, then that reminds me of Grant Morrison's new X-Men run. I've talked about this with friends of mine before, where I say, if you've never read an X-Men comic, then Grant Morrison's new X-Men run might seem pretty cool. If you've read all of Chris Claremont's run on the X-Men from the 1980s, then you will realize there are certain things that Grant Morrison did that are basically rehashes of what Claremont did. And I'm feeling like, just from what I've read of the premise of this book, that sounds like a similar situation with Grant Morrison's Action Comics, where he takes an idea that has been done before and he does it in a certain way where people who are new to Superman might say, that's a really cool idea. Grant Morrison is really imaginative. And while he is imaginative, he's not exactly doing something original, if this is the same thing that I'm thinking that Grant Morrison did. I'm pretty sure he did that in one of his issues of Action Comics after I stopped reading the book. I don't know anything about this book. I read the back of the book, and it basically looks like a whole bunch of really weird and wacky Cold War era weapons from the Russian side of things have surfaced in the present day, and it looks like these two have to try and stop hilarity from ensuing, if you will. Looks like one of the Nazgul. I'm just kidding, I don't think it is the Nazgul, but it definitely looks like a Russian version of it. This is called Ghost Project, and you can't really tell from looking at it, but you hear that? The texture is kind of raised a little bit. Like if you rub your hand right there where that coat is a different color, it's a raised texture. It feels kind of like velvet, if that makes any sense, but it's not velvet. But that's really interesting. I got this for $10. All of these, except for the Warlock book, were used, by the way. So this was only $10, and I thought, pretty good deal for a hardcover book that is, decently sized. So I have maybe seen reviews of this before sometime back. This is volume 1, actually. So I'm thinking that I have seen people talk about this before. I don't remember if they said good things about it or kind of not so good things. I guess I will read this and determine if it's good or not. I'm looking forward to it, though. The Legion Foundations. This is by Abnett and Lanning, who have made a name for themselves over at Marvel Comics doing a lot of cosmic-related stuff with Nova, Annihilation, stuff like that. I had no idea that this book actually existed. I know that another volume from their run, Legion Lost, existed. It was, I believe, a 25-issue miniseries. I am not talking about the New 52 series, Legion Lost. I'm talking about something from the early 2000s, I believe. I didn't know that this was around. And if you have seen any of my videos on the Legion of Superheroes comic books, this comes before the second Mark Waid run and after the first one. So it's somewhere sandwiched in between those two. This is like very early 2000s, right before Mark Waid's 3-boot era. And if you're wondering when the 3-boot era was, that was, if I'm not mistaken, immediately before when Geoff Johns basically restored the original Legion of Superheroes timeline, if you will. I don't know anything about whether this is good or bad, but I've been in a Legion mood for a long time now, so I went ahead and got it. This was, I think, $10, so not a bad deal. I'm hoping that it's at least enjoyable, and if I can, I'm going to look and see if anything else by these guys from the Legion exists. I had no idea that this one did. Maybe there are some other volumes from their run. I guess I'll just have to wait and see. This is a book called Kane. Let me see if I can... It's on the binding, but it is not on the cover. Greetings from New Eden, also A Better Place to Live. Did anyone ever watch that show Police Squad, where they would have like 2 titles for an episode? They would say one, the narrator would say one, but then on the screen there would be text of a completely different title. This reminds me of that. Anyway, weirdest diatribe I've ever gone on. This artist, Paul Grist, he did the series Jack Staff, which has been going on probably for about 10 years now. I have, I think, 3 or 4 volumes from that run. You probably saw them in a collection video that I did some time back, and in that video I mentioned that I wasn't planning on reading any more Jack Staff, but then I saw this and I thought, okay, this kind of looks noir-y, a little detective-y, And I like Paul Grist's artwork, I just wasn't really digging the story in the Jack Staff books. So I went ahead and gave this a shot because it is volume 1. I did see volume 2 there, but I decided not to get it because I might hate this. And I know in the past I have done that, where I would get 2 or 3 volumes of a series that I've never read before on the off chance that I might really enjoy the first volume, and then I would have the second and third volumes right there. But there's just as much of a chance that I will really hate the first volume, and then I will kind of hate myself for buying the second and third volumes or whatever. So I will read this, and if I really do love it, then maybe sometime in the future I will seek out volume 2. But for now, I'm just going to sake my thirst and see if this volume is any good. And then we're getting close to the end here. 2 volumes of Peter David's original X Factor run. I believe this is volume 2, and this is volume 4. I already have volume 3 somewhere on my shelf. I've got 2 big piles of X-Men books over there that I am waiting to read. I'm going to be reading them slowly, and these can go in there. Once I have all of Peter David's run, naturally I'm missing volume 1, I will go ahead and just burn right through those. These seem like they are a little thicker than my other volume, volume 3. Maybe it's just that the Visionary volumes are usually about 10 issues long, and these look like they are about 6 issues long. They look like they're a little shorter, probably because Marvel wanted to go ahead and squeeze more money out of the fans, so they wanted to make it be 4 volumes long. If they had made each volume be about 10 issues, they probably could have just completely eliminated the 4th volume, but then they probably wouldn't have gotten as much money. That's just my cynical brain doing some thinking. But anyway, these will go in the X-Men piles, and then once I finally find volume 1 somewhere, then I will read through all of that and I will see what I think. What I have read of Peter David's current X Factor run, or I guess the one that concluded somewhat recently, I still think of it as the current run, the one before All New X Factor, I think most of what I've read from that run is pretty good. There's some of it that's not the best. I think for a little while there, he kind of let himself get into a little bit of a slump where he was just kind of slumming it, not really trying very hard. And this was significantly before he had a stroke, because I'm sure someone out there will say, well, you know, he had a stroke, so he should be forgiven for that. Yeah, this was back in like around the time of Secret Invasion, where I felt like this is not as good as the beginning of the series. So hopefully for this run, he wasn't on X Factor for like a decade like he was on the Madrix Detective Run series. So hopefully this isn't going to feel as much like he was just phoning it in towards the middle and end. I don't know. I have read very little of this. Just a few issues here and there. A couple of the issues where they cross over with the other X-Men books. I haven't read any of this run of X Factor in a very long time, though. So I'm really looking forward to that. The final book I got, I am not proud of this, guys, but I got another Rob Liefeld product. Now, like Jeff Loeb, where everyone and their mom likes to make fun of him because that is the cool thing to do, I feel like people are the same way with Rob Liefeld. Now, don't get me wrong, both of those gentlemen certainly deserve a lot of the lumps that they have gotten for providing us with really bad comic books, but I feel like Rob Liefeld is one of many artists who is really awful. He is maybe the worst comic book artist out there, but there are plenty of other comic book artists who are not very far behind. For example, this is actually not illustrated by Liefeld, or it says that it's not. It says it's illustrated by this Matt Michaels, but I think some of it is illustrated by Liefeld. That looks like Liefeld's art right there. It may not be, but it looks Liefeldian. The very first issue, though, I don't think is. But if I'm being honest, this isn't much better than Liefeld. So no offense meant to Matt Michaels. I read that as Matt earlier. But yeah, this is one of those things where I am an X-Men fanatic, and I feel like I have to buy all of the X-Men stuff that I can. I have all of Chuck Austin's run on Uncanny X-Men. I have all of Peter David's run on X-Men. Those were some really awful comic books, guys. So if I'm going to go that far, I might as well get the Rob Liefeld miniseries. Sometime back, I reviewed the X-Force Cable miniseries. I think it came after this. It was a weird thing where if it came after this, it was set before this, I think. Or this came after that, but was set before that. I think that's what it is. Anyway, that's all I have. So my throat is getting a little scratchy, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here in a bit. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at what all I got. Wish me luck, guys. I'm probably going to mention this again really soon when I do a New Year's resolution video that I'm going to talk about. But I'm going to try my best not to buy any more books for the month of January. We will see how that works, how well I can keep up with that resolution. If I can keep it up pretty well, I may even try to extend that to February. But every time that I try to do this, I usually fail and I usually go and buy something. But I have so many books to read, I really don't need to buy any more other than what I have right here that I've bought using gift cards and such. So after this, I'm going to try to not buy any books for a while, and we will see how that goes. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I hope you will like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Have a great day.